Hi, so today I read a short story by Ursula K LeGuin, who's a great science fiction and fantasy author. It's about 5 pages long. The name of the story is The Ones Who Walk Away from Omelas. Omelas in this is a fictional city, a utopia actually, in which everybody's happy. There is no such thing as pain, suffering. There is no police, no government, no classes, no kings, no queens. If you want drugs, you can have drugs, but they are not habit forming. If you want to be religious, you can be religious, but there is no organized religion. And we are launched into this festival of summer where people are enjoying and having fun and just chilling. And the author asks you to imagine this city. And the author is asking you, do you believe the city is real? And then the author takes us to this 3 walks by 2 walks room, a cellar in somewhere in the city, where there's a child who is being abused. This child, and we don't know if this is a boy or a girl. The child is referred to as an it. This child has been dehumanized. This child is suffering, is malnourished, emaciated, is essentially down to the bones. But we know that at some point this child had a family, because this it, longs to be reunited with its mother. And the revelation here is that the happiness of the city, the solitude, the utopia of the city is actually based on the suffering of this child. And everybody knows it. They actually even have a ceremony where children, as they transition out of childhood into adulthood, there's a ceremony in which they find out the truth about this child, that the happiness of this entire city is based on the suffering of this child. And they are disgusted by this. But as they grow up, they kind of accept it. And then there are those who can't accept it. They are the ones who walk away from Omelas. And this story was really great, and this has had a lot of impact on science fiction overall. I saw an episode of Doctor Who, which is similar to this, in season, I think, rebooted series like season 3 or 4. Maybe even later. This is 11th Doctors, where there's a ship in which everybody's happy, but you find out later that it's based on the suffering of this one creature. Now this got me thinking about how this relates to modern day, and even historically, but especially modern day, to imperialism. Specifically, one thing that popped into my head as I was reading this story, was the example of Zambia, where Zambia is a very poor country in Africa. It has many different mines and so on, natural resources, but they are owned primarily by countries in the global north, companies in Sweden, in the Nordic countries, and Canada, where the miners are horribly treated. And the profits are expropriated to their respective countries of these corporations, and the people never actually get to see benefits. So these social democracies that are built up either in Canada or Nordic countries are built on top of the suffering of poor people across the world. But that's not it. That is just one example. In everyday example that we have, the imperialism of consumerism, where we know that the cheap stuff we're getting, whether that is cheap coffee or cheap clothes, is based on the suffering of people in the global south. And now there's a trend of actually even exploiting the people in the global south even more, to make more on top of that on an individual basis. So people will take up freelance jobs and then export them to the global south and have them do those jobs at a very reduced rates, and then take the profit. So you will take a freelance job or some job and say, hey, I will charge you $100, but then you will hire somebody in Thailand or Africa to do that job for you, and then you will pay them pennies on the dollar, and pocket the profit. But back to Omelas. Omelas kind of got me thinking. It's a really, really powerful story. It's only 5 pages long, so you should check it out. But Omelas got me thinking that how is it that in our societies, if we take a look, and there's too many examples to just go through in one video, in every society there are people who are being exploited, and their exploitation creates our happiness. And in one way or another, we are always okay with it. We decide to be okay with it because we take the utilitarian route, the most amount of happiness for the most amount of people. But should we take that route? Because as Comrade Che Guevara said, that if you tremble at every injustice, that you're a comrade of mine. And that is what should be the role of revolutionaries, is to question these exploitations. Not only question them, but fight them. Let us not be the people who walk away from Omelas. Let us be the people who decide to fight this injustice and create a more just world.